Welcome to Introduction to Theater, THE 100. My name is Tara Kamami, and I'm going to be your professor for this course. And in this first video of the class, we're going to be going over a course introduction and a couple introductory information for theater. Now, the first part of this video is going to be some technical explaining as to going through the website, going through Blackboard, showing you uh, how to do things in the class, where to find certain things, how to navigate your basic weekly assignments. However, this video isn't entirely just a technical explanation. After that, I'm going to be going into the syllabus and explaining what's expected this semester. And then in the third part of the video, I'll be going into some introductory information about theater and some topics. So if you are very familiar with Blackboard, don't think that's entirely what this video is going to be about and skip it, because we're going to be going into an introduction for the course itself. So let's dive into it. Like I mentioned, this is Introduction to Theater. So like the title says, this is an introduction to the idea of theater. This course is not intended to make all of you drop your majors and become a theater major and embark on a life in the theater. It's just supposed to introduce you to the basic concepts and ideas about theater and gain a better appreciation for what theater is. Now, as you know, this course will be fully online. We don't have any physical meetings throughout the semester. I also have not created any, I guess you would call it, uh, live online meetings for the class, meaning there's no specific date and time that you have to be online. And this would be, for example, like conference classes and stuff like that. I'm not doing anything like that. So uh, you don't have to mark anything specifically on your calendar. However, you are expected to log on at some point every day, log on to Blackboard and complete the assignments for that day. I'm going to be going over, I have a detailed schedule of what's going to be expected or what the assignment is every day. Um, and so you can do it on your own time, and you can do things ahead of time as well. There's no problem with that. So when you log in to the course, this is the first screen that you'll see, the first part here. And you'll see that there's a notification section. So as things become due, they'll pop up there. This site here, Blackboard, is where everything for the course will be done. This is the entire shell for the course. And as you can see on the left side there, that's the menu for the course. This is where you're going to find everything that you will need. Now, there are certain points here that you'll be going to regularly. There are other parts on this menu that are just there for your own reference if you do need to go back and find something. So the first thing we're going to look at is this first link in the second part of the menu, the weekly guide. This is the place that you will be going the most throughout this course. So when you click on that, it takes you to a page that looks like this. Um, this is where every week you'll go and you'll see exactly what you need to do that week. You'll see in this first part, the first thing on there is the folder for week one. It has the introduction, playwriting, acting, and directing, and it tells you the days that the week runs. Now, as we progress through the semester, um, the new weeks will pop up. Basically, each week runs from Saturday until Friday. The reason why it's Saturday is I don't have anything scheduled or expected of you to do on weekends. There's nothing that new that's going to pop up on a weekend. So in essence, every class or every new week begins on Monday. But for people who do want to get a head start on things, I will. The week ends on Friday, and on Saturday I'll have the new week pop up here on the weekly guide. Now, you don't need to do anything on that Saturday and Sunday, but I figure I'll give you the option to get started a couple days early before Monday if you do want to do that. But so every Saturday, the new week will pop up here. And everything that you need to do for the week will be in there. So what you'll do every week, you'll come to the weekly guide here. You will see the folder pop up for that first week or for the new week. And so you'll click on the folder for that week where the circle there shows, and it'll take you to something that looks like this. So this will be a list of all the assignments and everything that you need to do for that week. So you can see here the first thing that you have available to you is the personal introductions. So that'll be by the time you're watching this, you should have already completed your personal introduction. And then you can go further down there. The next thing would be the first lecture about playwriting and the poetics. The lectures themselves are separated into our videos recorded of keynote presentations like this. So you'll be watching the lecture with me narrating over it. So in order to watch that, you will click on that link, and it will take you to a YouTube page that has the video on it. And so you'll see here, you'll be able to watch the video like that. That'll have all the information in it. Now these lecture videos will be up the entire semester. I won't be taking them down. However, the videos won't pop up until the week that they're due. And then you can see on this screen right now, I have circled there the little closed caption button there. Part of the reason why I like to put these videos up on YouTube is because YouTube will automatically close caption them. So if you click on that, it'll take you to something that looks like this, and you'll be able to, they'll actually caption everything that I say on the video. So this is helpful, obviously, if you are a student with any type of disability that would require assistance like that. And also, in general, if you're in a place where you can't play the sound, or if you do have trouble understanding my voice, I guess, you can click on that button and see everything I'm saying printed on the screen. So I just wanted to point that out to you in case that's something you would be interested in. Now, after the other thing that I have included in the class here, you'll notice what I have circled there is a discussion board topic. After every lecture, there will be a corresponding thread on the discussion board that corresponds to that lecture. So if you do, after watching the playwriting and poetics lecture, if you have any questions that pertain specifically to that lecture, something that didn't make sense, something you want clarified, I ask that you post it in that discussion board. So if you click on that link, it'll take you over here. Obviously, there's nothing in there yet, but you can post a thread in here and ask your question, and then I will answer it. And the reason why I prefer that you post your questions here instead of emailing them to me is that if you have a question, it's very likely that somebody else will have the same question. And so it'll be much easier for everyone if you ask your questions there, and then I can answer them, and then everybody else can see it. And same thing goes so if you do have a question, at first you come here to the lecture questions section and see if somebody else has asked it. And if they have, then you can quickly get your information. And of course, that's to your benefit because I will answer the questions in this thread as quickly as possible, but it's not instantaneous. I'm not on my computer 24/7 waiting for a question to be posted. And so if you have a question and it's already been answered, you can instantly get the answer to your question instead of waiting for me to post a response. So definitely come here. There's a discussion board for each separate lecture. So it'll be very easy for you to find answers to what you're trying to find. And I have circled there on this page right now, showing you where on the menu on the left side you'll find the discussion board. So no matter what page you're on in our Blackboard class, you can click on the discussion board and it will take you to the list of discussions. So going back to our main page here, I just want to go over some of the options on your menu on the left side there. So the very first one, notifications, that's the page that you currently see here. You click on that, it'll take you to that main page. Course information, the one below it, is where you'll find the syllabus and the course, the course guide. The course guide is the schedule of what's going to be due every single day throughout the rest of this course. Now, as I told you under the weekly guide, as weeks pop up, it'll tell you what's due that week. Announcements, the link right underneath it. If I have any announcements for the class, something that any information I need to alert everyone to, you will find it there. The announcements will pop up on that page, and the announcements I do select the option to have it emailed out to you. So make sure that you not only have an email address associated with your BMCC or CUNY account, but that it's the email just you check most often. I think by default it will go to your BMCC email, and if you don't want to receive emails there, then you need to go in and change the main email address on your account. Please don't email me and just say, hey, professor, could you just send stuff to this? Because I won't be able to. When I'm sending out announcement emails and stuff like that, it's going to go to the one that you have registered with CUNY. So make sure you have that up to date. The link below that, where it says my name, Professor Tara Kamami, that's me, obviously. And that's where you can find my email address and a picture of me if you need a picture or you need a face to go along with the voice. And again, you'll find my email address. You can email me at any time, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Now, in terms of questions that you email me, of course, you're always free to email me, but I do ask that if you're going to email me, please only email me if it's a question doing specifically to you and a situation that deals with you individually. If it is a question about the course or a question about an assignment or a lecture, I have topics set up in the discussion board for you to ask there. And again, the only reason for that is so that other people can find the same information in case they have the question, because it is difficult to answer the same question multiple times through email. And it's basically the same thing that would happen if we met face to face in a class. If you had a question for me, you would ask me in the class and everybody else would hear it. Everybody wouldn't come up to me individually one by one asking me the same exact question. So the discussion board is basically a recreation of that idea, which is why I ask that you ask the bulk of your questions there. But of course, if you do need to speak to me about something personally or individually, then of course, feel free to email me. And then the last part on there is something called grades. If you're ever wondering what your current grade is in the course, you can click on that and it will tell you. The grades populate as we go on through the semester. So it's a good place to go if you're wondering what you got on something, or if you're waiting to see if something has been graded, you can go there and see what your score was. Now, the middle section there is set up to be all the resources and work that you'll need throughout the semester. So the weekly guide, like I said, is the main place that you'll be going. And then everything under that are all the individual sections of what the work and stuff is that the weekly guide will link to. So the next one, lectures. If you ever need to go back and look at a specific lecture, click on that link. You'll find the list of them. Assignments, if you are trying to find information on a specific assignment, you can go back there. and it'll have the list, the discussion board. If you're trying to get directly to the discussion board to ask a question or look for some answers, you can go there. Handouts, periodically, there's not a lot, but periodically there will be a handout that goes along with a lecture. Now, for instance, in this first week, you'll see there are 2 handouts that go along with the directing lecture. So there is a link when you click on the weekly guide, right below the link to the directing lecture. There are links to the handouts, but say later on in the semester, you want to go back and reference a handout for some information, then you can just click on the handouts and go directly to it. And then the last one, quizzes and exams. That's where you'll find the quizzes and exams that you need to do throughout this course. Again, the quizzes or exams that you need to do will be linked in the weekly guide in the folder for that week. But if you are trying to just quickly get to a quiz or an exam, then you can find it there. And then the last 3 there are things for your own personal reference. The student resources and the tools are a place for you to customize your view of Blackboard and your experience with Blackboard. So those are there for your reference. So again, we're going to take a look at the discussion board. So if you click on discussion board, this is what the main page looks like. These are what the threads will be. So at the top there, questions about the course. This is a thread that I've set up, or a forum that I've set up for you to ask questions that are specifically about the course in general, and not about specific lectures or assignments or anything like that. So this is the place you'll go to ask questions if you're wondering how to do something on Blackboard, how to submit an assignment or complete something. You'll ask it in there. I do ask that if you have a question, say about a specific assignment, there are 3 projects that I'm going to be giving out during this course. There will be a separate forum for each assignment for each project, for you to ask the question there. So I ask that you don't post your questions about specific assignments or lectures in that first forum. That's just specifically for how to use Blackboard for this course and how to, I guess, do certain things on here. And if you have any questions that pertain to that, that would be the first place to go. Now, one of your first assignments this week is to give us a personal introduction. And so you'll do it on the discussion board here. So this is where you'll be doing that. So what I'm looking for you to do is post a comment in that forum, and basically just telling us your name, your major, and have you ever been to a live stage production before? Now, you don't need to have seen a show before. If you've never seen a live stage show before, then by all means just say, I've never seen one before, which is fine. This is an introduction to theater course, and that's kind of the point. But if you have seen one, then either let us know the one that you've seen, or if you've seen many, let us know what your favorite one is, and tell us a couple comments about what you thought about the show. This is just a way for everyone to get to know each other. So you can go in and take a look at what everyone says, because as you'll find throughout the course of this semester, even though we don't meet face to face, you will be getting to know your fellow classmates quite a bit, since you'll be asking questions and commenting on each other's opinions, which is something that we're going to be doing throughout the course of this semester. Now, like I said, course information. If you click on that button up there, it'll take you to a screen that looks like this. And this is where you'll find the syllabus. And then right underneath that, you'll see the course guide. Again, you go there and it'll show you everything that you need to do on each date. So, like I told you, week 1, it'll tell you exactly that's what you need to do on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday, and then subsequently Monday, Tuesday, and so on. So you can reference this basically as our course schedule. And you'll see there's an attached file. It's basically a PDF copy of what I have there. So if you do want to keep a copy locally on your computer in order to reference it later, you can get it there. And so this is basically how you'll maneuver Blackboard in order to do this course. So that's everything in a nutshell. Again, if there are questions that you have, then feel free to post a comment on that first forum in the discussion board, questions about the course itself. So let's dive into the syllabus. I'll give a quick and brief explanation of the important parts of the syllabus. So this is the top part there. Introduction to Theater, THE 100, Summer Session 1, 2018. My name, Tara Kamami, my email address. Now, in terms of textbooks, I don't require a textbook. That's mainly because all of the quizzes and exams are going to be based on my my lecture videos here. So, and I don't assign reading from a textbook or anything like that. So I don't require a textbook. The next part of the syllabus, so this is the only other part we'll be going over on the syllabus, and it's the grading breakdown. So you'll see at the top there, so 10% of the grade, you'll be doing a play review. So I'll be giving the assignment out later on, but you're going to be writing a 3-page reaction paper to either Antigone or A Doll's House. I'll be giving you the rubric for what I'm looking for in the paper, but basically you're going to be explaining your opinion of the two play in more detail. Part of the things that, or part of the skills that I want you to develop in this class is to not just state your opinion on art, but to explain why that is your opinion. I think many times we're kind of used to, experiencing some type of art, whether it be a movie or a TV show or a play. We go with our friends and, we ask them, hey, what'd you think of that? And they say, yeah, it was fine. And then move on. And there's a whole, discussion that's lost there. There's always something to discuss, no matter, what you're talking about, whether it be a Royal Shakespeare production of Hamlet, or you're at the movie theater watching, The Hangover 8 or something like that. You can have just as much of a meaningful discussion on either one of those, because there's always a reason why the creators of whatever it is that you watched felt the need to invite you to see it, or asked you to pay your money in order to see it. So there's always a discussion to be had. And so I want you to get into the habit of not just stating what your opinion is, but giving specific examples as to why you felt that way. And so there is one paper this course that you're going to be writing, and it will be that play review. Now, there are 3 projects that you'll be doing over the duration of this course. The first one is called the Play Creation Project. The next one is the Original Play Project, which will be a playwriting assignment. And then the last one is the Final Project. So the Play Creation Project, since it's the first one, it'll be coming up next week. It'll be 5% of your grade. It's a little less since it's the first one that you'll be doing. Then the Original Play Project and the Final Project will each be 10%. Quizzes. There are 3 quizzes during this course, and they all average together for 10% of your grade. The quizzes are always due by Friday of the week that they're assigned. They are all multiple choice, and they're all 10 questions. Now, they are timed. You have 20 minutes to do each quiz. So all quizzes and exams, for that matter, are also handled through Blackboard. You'll click a link for it, and you can take it there. Now, the quizzes and the exams, you can only take them once. So if you don't have a lot of time to complete it, then don't start it. You can't save your progress and then come back later. I give you before you start, it'll tell you the amount of time you have to take it, and you need to complete it within that time frame. So if you don't have that much time, then don't take it at that moment. Now, the time limits that I give you on the quizzes and the exams, it shouldn't take you that full amount of time to take them. That's just the maximum amount of time you have. However, like I said, if you only have, 10 minutes free, you might not want to sit down and take a quiz, unless, of course, you feel like you really know the material and you can knock out the quiz in a couple minutes, and that's fine. I mean, it is 10 questions, multiple choice. But just keep in mind, you can only take it once. If you email me and say, oh, professor, I thought I had enough time, but I didn't, so I had to exit out, too bad, that's your grade. So it's up to you to manage your time. So make sure that you manage it well. Now, the quizzes, like I said, are always due by the end of the day on Friday, the week that they're assigned. However, you can always take it earlier. If you finish all of the lectures that you need and the assignments for the week, and say by Wednesday you finished everything, you're ready for the quiz, then you can take the quiz on a Wednesday. The Friday date is basically just the last day, the deadline that you have to take it. So the quizzes, there will be 3 of them. They all average together for 10%. Then there will be a midterm and a final exam, and each of those are 20% of your grade. Then lastly, class participation and discussion board posts, 15%. So there will be, like I said, there will be times throughout the semester where you will be posting your opinion of something, and then you'll be asked to comment on somebody else's opinion in order to spark discussion on the discussion board. So for those assignments, that will fall under this class participation grade. So just by simply logging in and stating your opinion on something, you'll get 15% of your grade there. Now, the one thing I will say about the discussion board is that, like I said, you will be assigned to respond to somebody's opinion on the discussion board. I just ask that, of course, everyone stay respectful of each other's opinions. This is supposed to be a place to spark academic debate. This isn't a Facebook comments argument. So, just because you don't actually have to see everyone face to face, it shouldn't change your general politeness to your fellow classmates. So just be respectful of people's opinions. Obviously, you can disagree with someone's opinion. That's kind of the point of opening up these discussion boards. So you can disagree, but do it respectfully. So below the grade breakdown, you'll see the grading scale. That's the basic college grading scale there. Then below that, I offer 3 extra credit assignments throughout the semester. So the first one, attend a theatrical show on your own and write a review paper for it. So there is the one paper that's due this semester, and you're writing a bit about either Antigone or A Doll's House, 2 plays that you'll be reading. Now, for extra credit, if you want to attend a show somewhere and write your paper on that, then you can do that for extra credit. Now, the only stipulation on this is that it must be a professional show. So no going back to your old high school and watching, their 15th production of Guys and Dolls. This is summer session 1, so some high schools will still be in session. The idea of this extra credit assignment is for you to get an experience going to a professional show. And so along those lines, if you decide to do this extra credit assignment, in order to submit the paper, you must also submit a copy of your ticket stub. If you do not submit a picture of your ticket stub with the paper, I do not take the paper. And it must be a show that you've seen during the course of this semester. So if you saw, a show 2 years ago, showing me the ticket stub from that and writing your paper on it. It should be something fresh in your mind. Therefore, it has to be something you've seen within the time frame of this summer session. But the idea for the paper is the same as the other one you'll be writing. You'll be commenting on what your opinion of the show is, and specific examples from the production as to why you felt that way. Under the assignments tab, I will be posting a rubric for the papers that will give more detailed information. But before, if you do decide to do this or any of the other extra credit assignments, please send me an email and let me know what show you decide to go see, and I'll let you know if it works or not. I don't want you to go buy a ticket for a show and then find out it doesn't work. It doesn't matter to me what type of show you go see. It's just about if it's a full-length live theatrical narrative. So that means, for example, you can't go see a stand-up comedy show and write your paper on that. You can't go see, go to Alvin Ailey and go see a dance show, which by all means, I highly suggest you go to Alvin Ailey and see a dance show. It's great theater, but the idea behind this paper is to comment on the production values of the narrative that you saw, and it'll be very difficult for you to do it on something like that. So just let me know what show you plan on seeing before you go do that. Then the second one there, read a play of your choosing and write a review of it. So same thing with that first extra credit assignment. And I guess I didn't mention the first extra credit assignment. The value that it gives you is you can get up to 10 points added to your final grade based on the grade of the paper that you submit to me. So the second one, you can, instead of attending a live show, you can read a play of your choosing, and you can write a review paper for it. And for this assignment, the grade of your paper will replace your lowest quiz score. Now, one of the stipulations on this, it can't be Antigone or A Doll's House. So it has to be another play, and it must be a full-length play. So that's why I ask you, before you do this assignment, before you start writing your paper, let me know what play you plan on doing. If you Google plays online, you might come across something that's a one-act or a short play. And if you're trying to write a 3-page paper on a 10-page play, you're going to drive yourself crazy. So again, before you do the assignment, let me know what you plan on doing, and I'll let you know if it works or not. And then the last one, outline an original full-length play and write the first scene, or basically writing a short play. So like I told you, under the grading breakdown there, 10% of your grade, the original play project. This will be a playwriting assignment where you're going to come up with your own original idea and write a short play for it. Now, that is required to do. However, if you want to do that project a second time, write a second play, a second short play, you can do that for extra credit. And that's the third one down there. And so the grade of your project, you can get up to 10 points on your final grade based on the grade of the project. Now, for the extra credit assignments here, you can do all 3 assignments. However, you can only do each assignment once. So what that means is you can go see a live show, write a paper on it, and you could read a play and write a paper on it, and you can write a second play and hand that in. So you can do all 3 of those. However, you can't go attend 3 live shows and write 3 papers on it and get up to 30 points on your final grade. That doesn't work. So you can do all 3 of those assignments, but you can only do each assignment once. So the last thing is about your grades. If you are wondering again what your grade is, if this is the main page here, but on any of the pages in our Blackboard course, if you click on that button there, grades, it will take you to the grade center and it will show you what your current grade is. So if you're ever wondering, how am I doing in this class? If you click on that, it will tell you. So that is the introduction to the course. So if you have any other questions about what this course will be about, what's expected of you, then post them in that first forum on the discussion board. So for right now, we're going to end the video here, just doing a quick discussion on what theater is. And so, of course, you got to ask the theater, well, what is theater? So, in its most bare bones form, theater is a story being told live in front of an audience. There, theater has many different, I guess, genres and way that it's progressed throughout time. But the one thing that is always true about it, it is a story being told live in front of an audience. So to understand theater, we should look at where it all began. As we'll do for most of the lectures in this course, it's always good to see a brief snippet of where it began to understand why it is the way it is now. So, where did it all begin? Well, theater begins with what we call religious rituals. Now, I point this out too because you'll notice going forward, a lot of our lectures will begin in ancient Greece. And it might seem like theater itself kind of begins in ancient Greece, but it doesn't. We start a lot of our lectures in ancient Greece because Greece is the first time, or one of the first times, where we have rules written down that define what theater is. But it begins long before that. Theater begins long before civilization itself, when people were still living in small nomadic tribes. And so, as we were living in small groups, each group had its own religion, its own creation myths, and their own kind of religious stories. And they had a need to pass these stories down from one generation to the next. And so what they would do is somebody in the group, an elder in the group, will tell the story to everyone else in the group. And there's usually some type of choreographed movement or dance that goes along with it, which gives us the ritual aspect. And so it's in these religious rituals from these nomadic tribes before civilization begins that we say theater itself begins. Because in the end, what were these religious rituals? Well, they were stories that were being performed in front of an audience in order to pass down a story from one generation to the next. And in essence, this is theater. And so this is where it begins. Now, to understand what theater is, it's good to look at what are the things that you need in order to do theater. And when you think about it, there's a lot of elements that go into doing a live stage production. Of course, for instance, money. Money is always usually needed, but it's not required. It's not something that you absolutely need. If you look at theater itself, there are only three basic things you need in order to do theater. And everything else is just, it's nice if you have it. It'll probably make it a little easier, but it's not necessary. So there are only three things that are necessary in order to do theater. So first, you need an actor, someone to tell the story. Second, you need an audience, someone to see the story. And then lastly, you need an empty space, a place to perform the story. And we call it an empty space because though majority of the time when you are watching theater, you are in a building called a theater, sitting in front of a stage watching it there. But there are some times where that is not the case. You can see theater anywhere. You can see it on a street corner or in a park. Sometimes we're forced to watch it on the subway. So there are many different places that you can see theater, and so that's why we just call it an empty space. And so the three things that you need, the only three things that you need in order to do theater, are an actor, an audience, and an empty space. Now, there are two types of theater that we're going to be looking at this semester. And we're going to go through the definition of both of those. So the two types of theater that we're going to be looking at is something we call realism and naturalism. So realism is imitating real life on stage as close as possible. And naturalism is kind of a more extreme version of realism, and it's recreating real life on stage absolutely. in all aspects. So we're going to take a look, we're going to dissect these two definitions here because they both deal with uh, kind of the same thing, but in two different ways. So there's two parts to each of these definitions. The first part for both of them is basically the same: imitating real life, recreating real life. Um, Two different ways to say basically the same thing. Both of them deal with putting real life on stage. So that's the first part. The second part is different for both of them. With realism, it's doing it as close as possible. So with realism, you're putting real life on stage, but you're doing it as close as you possibly can. You want it to be as real as possible, but you have some dramatic license to stray from reality. So for example, if you're telling like a romantic comedy of some kind, right? The way that the story always goes is two people love each other throughout the whole course of the story. They keep missing each other. And then finally, at the end, one of them looks at the other and says, "Damn it, I love you. Why don't you know that?" And the other goes, "Oh my God, I didn't know." And then they both fall in love and run away together. Now, if you think about it, how many times in real life do we ever get that chance to say exactly what we mean to the person that we want to say it to? A lot of times, maybe some of you are saying, "Well, I have," and I'm very happy for you. But I think a lot of us don't always get that chance. Life doesn't always have a climactic moment, and so if you're saying that you're trying to put real life on stage, you do need to be able to stray slightly in order to give your characters a climactic moment, in order to tell your story. So that's what we mean by as close as possible. You can stray slightly from that in order to tell your story. So realism, imitating real life on stage as close as possible. Now, the second half of naturalism, absolutely in all aspects. Naturalism is a much more extreme version of realism. So, like realism, you are putting real life on stage. However, you don't get to stray from reality in any way. You're basically just trying to hold a mirror up to real life and say, this is how people actually are. Um, and so sometimes, you can tell a captivating story with naturalism. And other times with naturalism, you're not concerned as much with how engaged people are with the story, but you care more about how they are observing the characters and reflecting on themselves as human beings. Um, I guess an example of this would be there was this famous production that was done a long time ago that took place in a butcher shop. And so this is an example of, realism applied to production elements. So if, say, for instance, you were going to do this production realistically with realism, you would make your stage look like a butcher shop. You would have everything that kind of looks like what you would see in a butcher shop. You would have a meat cutter, but there's no blade in it for actor safety, right? So it's just supposed to kind of look like it. You might have a door on the back wall that says meat locker, but if you actually open the door, it's just the back wall of the stage. So that's how you do in realism. But this production was done naturalistically. So what they did was they went to a real butcher shop and they basically took everything inside of it and put it onto the stage. So you had real working meat cutters with actual blades in them. And the other thing they did that was very distinctive was that they hung slabs of beef from the ceiling of the stage. So as the audience walked into the theater, what they were immediately greeted with was that smell of meat. If you've ever walked into a butcher shop, the first thing that hits you is the smell. And so the audience was hit with that smell, and it immediately made them think of being in an actual butcher shop. And I had a friend when I was in grad school direct a short play that took place in a men's room. Now, if you're going to do it as realism, you would on a stage build what looks like a men's room. But he wanted to do this naturalistically. So he did this play in the actual men's room in the lobby of the theater. So only 5 people at a time could see the show. And what would happen is it was still a working men's room. People unknowingly would walk into the men's room, go up to the urinal, start going to the bathroom, and then they would start looking around them, noticing that there was something really weird going on around them. And that's what they would, and then they would realize there was a show happening. And so the show would happen in this men's room around the people who were actually there to go to the bathroom while 5 people, I guess, kind of creepily watched it. So this is another example of naturalism. But naturalism doesn't just apply to the production elements, it applies to the writing, it applies to the acting as well, with the idea being that you want to portray life exactly as it is. So with realism, you want to imitate real life on stage as close as possible. With naturalism, you want to recreate it absolutely in all aspects. So the last part of this video that we're going to talk about is going to be a question I'm going to pose to everyone. And this is going to be your assignment after this, to go on the message board and post your thoughts and opinions on it. So if we say the only 3 things that you need in order to do theater is an actor, an audience, and an empty space, then it brings up the question, well, what is theater and what isn't theater, right? This could apply to many things. So the first question I ask you is, what about a politician giving a speech to a crowd? Would you call that theater? You have an actor, the politician, you have an audience, the people listening to the speech, and you have an empty space, the place that it's happening. In this picture, it's a theater, but many times it could be, on a street corner somewhere, on a stump in a factory or something like that. Would you call this theater? Do you have a script? Well, usually most of the speeches are written out beforehand, so they are reading off of it. Do you have an actor? I guess that, in essence, would be where some of the disagreement might be. Would you consider the politician an actor? Yes, they are being themselves. Maybe they're not. Students will always make the point to me that, yeah, they're definitely acting because they're a politician. But would you, in the end, call it theater? The second question is, what about a priest giving a sermon? Would you consider this theater? Do we have an actor? We have the priest. We have an audience. We have the congregation. And do we have an empty space? Well, we have the church itself that it's happening in. Do we have a script? Well, usually the priest will write out their sermon beforehand. Do we have a story being told? Usually the sermon deals with telling a story from the Bible. And of course, this question, you could apply this question to any, religious setting, a rabbi delivering a sermon, an imam delivering a sermon, any religious gathering with the religious figure, giving a sermon to the group. Would you consider that theater, or is that something different? And then the third question that I posed for you on the message board is, what about a live sporting event? This is always the one that's hotly debated amongst theater academics. Would you call this theater? Well, do you have an audience? Yes. You have all the people in the stands. Do you have an actor? Well, the players on the field are performing what everyone is watching. Do you have an empty space? Yeah, the stadium itself. Do you have a script? Well, sometimes yes. If you're watching football, American football, since my picture there is soccer, or what many of you will call football. If you're watching American football, you have plays that you have. Each team has a playbook, so that's a written out script. But even if you don't have a script, not every theatrical show is scripted. If you go to improv theater, there's no script. You're just improving it, kind of like players on a field, improving what they're going to do. Do you have costumes? Well, the athletes are wearing something, so they're uniform. Do you have props? There's usually a ball of some kind or a puck or whatever. Um, do you have a dramatic narrative being told? Well, you kind of do. If you watch a live sporting event on TV, what's the thing that precedes the broadcast? The pregame. And what is it the pregame is telling you? Well, the pregame is going to tell you everything you're about to see. You're going to watch this player who came from a tough background, and he's trying to defy the odds and be one of the best people on the field, and we're all rooting for him. And then there's this other guy that we like. He's an old veteran, and this is his last hurrah, and it's the one to see the old man go out with a bang. And then there's this other player, and he cheated last year, and so we don't like him. Everybody's going to boo this guy. They're basically giving you the dramatic narratives that you're watching throughout the game. It's kind of like, if you think about for a second, have you ever watched a sport you know nothing about? Is it as interesting as watching one that you do? No, not usually. And the reason for that is you don't know any of the players, you don't know the teams, you don't know the dramatic narratives that are unfolding. So we have an actor, an audience, an empty space. We have a dramatic narrative being told. Sometimes you have a script, we have costumes, we have props. So would you call this theater? Now, your assignment after watching this video is to go on the message board and post your opinions as to, would you call a politician giving a speech theater? Would you consider a priest or any other religious figure giving a sermon theater? And would you consider a live sporting event theater? And keep in mind, there is no right or wrong answer to this. I'm trying to make the case, that all of them are theater, but you very well could say, yeah, that's well and fine, but it just isn't. But what I'm looking for you to do is to give me the reasons why. If you don't think it's theater, make your case. What's different about it? If you do think it's theater, well, give me the reasons why. And don't just say, well, everything that you said in the video, Professor. Give your own reasons. Why is it suddenly theater? So that is your assignment after watching this video. So you can go over to the discussion board, click on the forum dedicated to that question, and then post your response.